Hello, tonight. You find yourself standing in the middle of a vast, moonlit desert, the kind where time stretches so thin it begins to fray at the edges. The sky above glows a soft navy, like crushed velvet dusted with silver. The sand beneath your feet is warm, but not uncomfortably so, more like the inside of a favorite memory. And the air, still, sacred, as if even the wind knows not to speak too loudly here. You probably won't survive this journey, but that's okay, no one ever survives bedtime stories from the gods. Not without waking up different. So before you relax, consider liking and subscribing, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And while we're here together under this mythical sky, leave a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. There, I love seeing our global temple grow. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background noise, and let's slowly begin tonight's voyage. You step forward, and the sand responds with a sigh. Not a crunch or a slide, but a sigh, like parchment being unrolled, or an old spirit remembering your name. Ahead of you rises a low stone temple, carved straight into the rock, its pillars worn smooth by centuries of wind, but still standing proud, still watching. A moonbeam strikes its threshold like a spotlight. That's probably a sign, right? You duck through the entrance. The temperature drops immediately, in that ancient Egyptian way that says, yes, we invented air conditioning, first deal with it. Inside, it's silent. Not empty though. You can feel the stories coiled in the stone, humming low and slow, like a forgotten lullaby, waiting to be sung. A faint light pulses at the far end, a floating orb, hovering over an altar, and behind it, a statue. Enormous, humanoid, but vaguely feline. Eyes half-lidded, smile, knowing, paws resting on a scroll. That looks suspiciously like it's been read recently. You swear one ear twitches. This is not the museum kind of temple. This is the kind that still listens. Scholars still debate whether Egyptian temples were merely symbolic homes for the gods, or if some were truly inhabited, lived in, even loved in by divine presences that never fully left. Here, you feel that argument tilt quietly in favor of inhabited. You approach the orb. It flares softly, not threateningly, and the entire room exhales. Shadows shift. The floor mosaic beneath your feet rearranges itself slightly, just enough to suggest it noticed you. Your fingers brush the surface of the orb, warm, like it's been holding someone's dream. You close your eyes. When you open them, you are elsewhere. The temple is still around you, but it has grown. Columns stretch upward into impossible heights. The walls shimmer between limestone and stars. Torches burn without flame. And from a hidden corridor, a voice echoes. Not a roar, not a whisper, a narration. You've come, it says, calmly. I wasn't sure you would. And there, stepping from the shadow between two tall lotus-shaped pillars, is a figure in deep blue linen robes, embroidered with constellations. A priest, a god, or maybe just someone who remembers things no one else dares to. They smile at you. Tired, but kind. Many who enter this place do so looking for answers. You, though, you're here for sleep. Fair. The figure gestures for you to follow, and you do, because apparently that's just what we're doing now. You pass through chamber after chamber, each one humming with forgotten energy. Each one filled with small, strange objects. A bronze cat statue missing an eye. A pot of sand that whispers when you lean too close. A papyrus scroll that floats 2 inches above its pedestal, like it forgot how to obey gravity. The figure speaks as you walk. This is a temple to stories. Not just told stories, but ones lived, then buried, then dreamed again. They pause. Beside a mural, a figure lying beneath the stars, wrapped in gold-threaded linen, with glowing eyes open and alert despite the sleeping pose. Some say the gods sleep here too, that they come to rest between the telling of ages. You continue deeper into the temple, following your quiet guide until you reach the heart chamber. Here, the ceiling is gone. Instead, The stars peered directly down at you, close enough to count. Freckles on Orion's belt. The floor is soft sand, cool to the touch. There's a simple stone bench near the center, and your guide gestures to it. Rest here. Let the night do what it was meant to. You sit. The stone cradles you, like it remembers your shape. A breeze moves through the chamber, ruffling your hair, gently carrying the scent of sandalwood, date, wine, and something older than both. The guide leans closer. There's a reason sleep and death were cousins in every mythology. They pause, then grin slightly. But unlike death, sleep usually lets you come back. They fade into the shadows as slowly as they appeared, leaving you alone but not really alone. You lie back. The stars overhead rearrange themselves again, forming new constellations just for you. One looks suspiciously like a sleeping cat. Another, a stylus and tablet. A third, just an eye. Watching. Always watching. You close your eyes, lulled by the warmth of the air, the hush of the desert beyond the walls, and the faint crackle of old stories beginning again. And somewhere deep within the temple's bones, the gods begin to stir, because tonight, they dream with you. You don't remember falling asleep. That's the strange thing. You blinked, and the temple dissolved like mist. And now, you're somewhere else. Somewhere quieter, but also louder. Does that make sense? No. Perfect. You're standing at the edge of a wide river, not the Nile as you know it. Not quite, but a dream version of it, flowing with water that glows faintly blue under a moon that shouldn't be this large or this close. The air is thick with humidity and musical, hypnotic rhythms like reeds swaying in slow motion. And there, just a few feet away, is a boat, a proper bark, carved from ebony, with golden oars and a sail that ripples in a wind that doesn't exist. A tall figure stands at its helm, skin dark as night, wrapped in fine white linen, his eyes obscured by a jackal mask that gleams in the moonlight. Anubis, the god of mummification and protector of the dead. Widely accepted historical fact, Anubis was one of the oldest deities in Egyptian belief, originally more central than Osiris, before later mythologies shifted him into the role of divine embalmer and guardian of tombs. Unusual fact, some ancient texts refer to Anubis not as a god at all, but as a title, he who is upon his mountain, suggesting the role may have once been more archetype than individual. He gestures silently for you to board, and honestly, if a jackal-headed deity invites you onto a glowing funeral bark in the middle of a dream river, you go. That's just bedtime logic 101. You step aboard, and the boat pushes off without a sound. The river opens ahead, like a curtain drawn by moonlight. Anubis doesn't speak, but his presence feels oddly reassuring, like a friend you didn't know you had. He steers you between shimmering reed beds, where shadowy shapes glide beneath the surface. Crocodiles, maybe, or regrets. Scholars still debate whether the journey through the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, was meant to be taken literally, in death, or symbolically through dreams and transformation. Right now, floating between stars and water, you're leaning toward. Yes, the banks pass by slowly. You see ghostly temples rise and fall in the distance. Some are crumbling ruins. Others are whole and gleaming, their columns reflecting constellations that have no name in any modern sky. Then, from the reeds, comes a song, not sung-whispered. Thousands of voices layered on top of one another, rising and falling in waves. They're not singing to you, they're singing about you. Your name is in there, so are moments you've forgotten. Anubis says nothing, but tilts his head slightly, like he wants you to listen closer. You do. The song grows clearer. It sings of your small kindnesses, your quiet victories, the way you once looked at the moon when no one else was watching. It's weirdly flattering, uncomfortably so. You look at Anubis. Is this normal? He shrugs. In Duat, every soul becomes myth. Then he smiles. And every myth becomes dream. Okay, that's a little cryptic, but fine. We're already several layers deep in cosmic metaphysics. What's one more? The boat slows. Ahead, the river ends in a wide, calm pool, surrounded by statues, tall, silent figures, carved in alabaster and onyx. They hold their hands in different positions, some open in welcome, some covering their hearts, some pointing toward the stars. This is a weighing place. Anubis turns to you and holds out a hand. In his palm rests a feather, light as breath, white as memory. The feather of Maat, he says. You've heard the stories. You have. Probably from a cartoon, maybe a documentary, or that one overly enthusiastic history teacher with a thing for hieroglyphs. Your heart gets weighed against it. If it's heavier roops, if it's lighter, or equal you, ascend. Or at least, avoid being lunch for Amit. You take the feather, but, instead of offering your heart, you offer something else. A memory. One you'd almost forgotten. The time you forgave someone who didn't deserve it. The way you kept going when no one noticed. The quiet, stubborn love you held on to, even when it hurt. The statues seem to lean in. The pool goes still. The feather lifts from your palm and floats upward, caught in an invisible wind. It doesn't fall. It doesn't rise. It stays balanced. Anubis nods once. Well done. You blink. You're back in the boat. The river is gone. The stars have changed, again now burning gold and crimson across. The sky like ink dropped in oil. You realize the bark is no longer moving. It's resting, like you should be. Anubis offers a final glance, one that feels less like goodbye and more like you'll be seeing me again. Then he vanishes. Not dramatically, no puff of smoke or lightning flash, just ... No longer there. The boat becomes stone, the river becomes sand, and you are once more on the temple floor, curled where you first lay, heartbeat sinking to the ancient rhythm of gods who still remember what it means to dream. You feel the echo of the river long after it vanishes. There's still a dampness to the air around you, as if the underworld's water left behind a memory of itself. The feather is gone, but your hand tingles where it rested, like something divine passed through you and forgot to ask permission. You sit up. The sand has cooled above. The stars spin slower now, less like a ceiling and more like a clock that's decided to nap mid-tick in front of you. A staircase, naturally, cut directly into the stone. It descends at an angle so steep, you wonder if it's meant for mortals at all. The steps glow faintly just enough to guide your way, like breadcrumbs made of starlight. So, of course, you go down because when the gods build a glowing staircase in the middle of the desert, you don't question it. You follow it and hope the fall is metaphorical. The walls are carved with scenes as you descend, huge panels that shift as you walk, serpents swallowing suns, lotus flowers blooming backward, scarabs made of flame crawling across the stone. Your shadow flickers, then settles, then disappears entirely. Great, you step onto the final stair, which isn't a stair at all. It's a platform suspended in the middle of a vast cavern lit by floating torches that refuse to cast heat. In the center, seated on a throne of obsidian and feathers, is a woman. You recognize her immediately. Isis, widely accepted historical fact. Isis was one of the most powerful and widely venerated goddesses in ancient Egypt, associated with motherhood, magic, and healing, and her cult even spread to Greece and Rome. Unusual fact, in some lost or fragmentary texts, Isis was described as not just a magician, but the origin of all magic, claiming to know the secret name of Ra, which supposedly gave her control over even the king of the gods. She watches you with eyes that seem made of moonlight. Not in a poetic way, literally glowing, silver, unreadable. You feel every embarrassing thing you've ever done rise to the surface, like she knows them, like she's already forgiven them. Welcome, she says, and the cavern echoes the word back, 1,000 times softer. Her voice is sleep itself, smooth, slow, almost weighted. You move closer, unsure if you're walking or being drawn in by some gravitational spell only gods know how to cast. She lifts one hand and points to a basin beside her. In it, a mirror of still water. See yourself, she whispers, not as you are, as you could be. You lean in, your reflection stares back, except it's not a reflection, it's you. Yes, but stronger, softer, braver. The you that stood up when you didn't have to. The you that stayed silent when words would have done more harm. The you you're still becoming. Isis watches. Belief shapes the soul, she says, as does memory, as does myth. The cavern flickers. The air grows sweeter like myrrh and honey warmed under sunstone. The torches rise, circling the ceiling like planets, and the walls become screens of flowing water, each rippling with different scenes from your life, some real, some dreams, some things you've never seen before, but recognize anyway. She stands, moves to your side, places one cool hand against your temple. You don't flinch, because why would you? You're already 1,000 leagues from normal. Close your eyes, she murmurs. You do. She begins to speak not words, but names, not yours. Others, ancient names, tales, myths, and as she speaks, you see the stories unfurl behind your closed lids. A mother carving protective spells into bread crusts, a queen dragging stars into alignment, a sister weeping rivers that flow backwards through time. You realize something. They're all her. Every woman you've ever heard a bedtime story about, every protective whisper in the dark, every quiet act of rebellion, every gentle hand guiding you through. Chaos. Isis is not one goddess. She's all of them. She opens your eyes with a breath. You are not meant to remember everything, she says. Only what matters. You nod, because it does. You don't even pretend to understand the rules anymore. You just accept the moment for what it is, a rare, soft truth in a world full of sharp distractions. She smiles, faintly. Then she dissolves. No smoke, no flare, just light to air. The basin is empty, but your reflection is still there. It nods, then vanishes. You're alone again. Well, mostly, because some part of her stayed. You feel it in the way your heart slows, in the way the stars pulse, quieter, in the way your thoughts begin to sound less like static and more like silence. Scholars still debate whether Isis's magic was ritual, mythic, or psychological in nature, but here, in this softly glowing room beyond time, the distinction feels pointless. You rise. The staircase is gone, but the sand has returned. You walk forward, not because there's a path, but because there doesn't need to be. The desert receives you like a lullaby that never truly ended. Warm wind curling around your ankles, a sky so wide it makes your thoughts fall silent just to match it. There's no sign of the cavern, no trace of Isis or the shimmering basin, just sand, stars, and the hush of something sacred still lingering in your bones. You don't walk so much as drift. The world has softened around the edges. No sharp sounds, no hard corners, just the faint crunch of your footsteps and a scent on the air that smells like old parchment and lightning. And then you see it. A doorway, not built, but born from the dunes themselves, rising slowly, as if the desert has decided to reveal a memory it buried long ago. It's flanked by 2 jackals, carved from black stone, their eyes set with tiny rubies that flicker like fireflies trying to stay awake. You pass between them. Inside, the temperature drops. The ceiling arches above, like a ribcage. Bones of a long-dead titan fossilized into golden sandstone. Your steps echo on polished stone, in a space too vast to name a temple, a tomb, a god's spare room. At the center stands a woman, not waiting, simply existing. She does not turn, but you know she knows you're here. She wears a crown, shaped like a throne. Throne, yes. That's a real thing, and a long white robe, fringed in lapis and blood-red embroidery. She holds a wu scepter in one hand and what looks like a feather made of bronze in the other. This is Mat, widely accepted historical fact. Mat was the ancient Egyptian concept of cosmic order, truth, and balance, personified as a goddess who regulated the stars, seasons, and even the behavior of gods and mortals alike. Unusual fact. There are references in temple inscriptions suggesting that Mat wasn't just a force of balance, but the original one, the very breath that kept the universe from collapsing back into chaos, preceding even the gods who later worshipped. Or, she turns, and she smiles. Oh no, not the smirk of someone who's amused. The knowing smile of someone who's seen your browser history and still offers you tea. You've come far, she says, her voice like wind brushing over glasscool. Precise, with just enough warmth to stop it from cutting. I'm not sure if I came or got pulled, you mutter, then instantly regret speaking aloud to a goddess of truth. She tilts her head. Balance is always both, she replies. The room ripples. Not visually dash spiritually. You blink and suddenly you're not in a temple anymore. You're standing in the middle of a courtroom made of stars. Columns shimmer with constellations. The floor beneath your feet glows with ancient glyphs, rearranging themselves every few seconds, like they're trying to spell your soul. Mat walks beside you now. Everything has weight, she explains, gesturing to a pair of golden scales suspended in midair. Every choice, every silence, every kindness, even every mistake. Of course, because what's more relaxing than an interdimensional audit? She doesn't laugh, but you sense she could, if she wasn't so committed to keeping the universe from unraveling. You've already been measured once, she adds. This is not judgment. Then what is it, you ask? Perspective. The room tilts. You flinch. Suddenly, fragments of your own past surround you like stained glass windows that move. A time you lied to avoid hurting someone. A day you kept a promise you forgot you made. A small moment you didn't know mattered until much later. All of them hover around you in glowing shards. Ma waves her feather, and the scenes compress into one point of light, then vanish. You are not the sum of your actions, she says. You are the sum of your intentions, shaped by time and tempered by truth. You nod, slowly. Because what else do you do when existence itself explains you to yourself? The scales shift. Not because you placed anything on them, because you're standing near them. Ma watches. Arms crossed, her smile now closer to affection than analysis. You seek stillness, she says. But stillness is not the absence of motion. It is the balance of motion. You feel it now, that you are not being weighed. You are weighing your world, all the noise, all the striving, all the unfinished to-do lists and unsent messages. And it's okay. It's okay for it to be heavy. It's okay to need rest. The courtroom dissolves. You're back in the temple or something like it. A single candle flickers in the distance, its flame untouched by wind. Ma, single quotes at is gone, but the balance remains. In your chest, behind your eyes, around your thoughts. Scholars still debate whether Mat was ever truly worshipped like other deities, or simply embodied in rituals and architecture. But standing here, with that quiet flame and the air still tingling with her presence, you suspect she was never meant to be worshipped, only remembered, only lived. The jackal statues wait for you outside as you step past them. The doorway melts back into sand, and in the night sky, just for a moment, you swear a new star appears. The sand is cooler now, like a sigh exhaled from the lungs of the earth. You keep walking. The desert is never quite the same place twice. What was once smooth dune is now jagged basalt, like the bones of a long-dead colossus, rising up to warn the horizon. Your footsteps echo in ways sand should not allow, and for a moment, you feel like you're being followed, not by danger, by story. You crest a hill and find yourself looking down into a hollow circle of black stone where torches burn with blue flame. their smoke spiraling upward as if obeying an invisible script. In the center, a figure crouched, beside a pit of still water. She doesn't move, not until you do. Then she rises not with a jolt, but with the elegant menace of someone who once led armies and performed surgery in the same hour. Her robe is layered in red, fringed in gold and charcoal feathers. Her arms are painted with protective symbols, and in her hand is a curved blade that glints with the kind of edge that doesn't care what century it's in. This is Nephthys, widely accepted historical fact. Nephthys was the sister of Isis, wife of Set, and often overshadowed by both, yet she played a key role in funerary rites, standing beside Isis as the mourner who watched over the dead and helped guide souls to the next world. Unusual fact. Some fragmented texts hint that Nephthys was not only a goddess of death, but of secret keeper of forbidden knowledge. Memories deliberately lost, and names erased from stone. She eyes you with neither warmth nor disdain, just ... calculation. You're here early, she says. You blink. Early for what? For forgetting. Okay, that's comforting. The blade disappears, not vanishes, just folds into her sleeve, which seems to defy the laws of physics. She gestures toward the water. You step closer. It's not water, it's memory. Reflected in the surface are not your features, but moments you tucked away so tightly you forgot they ever happened. A dream you dismissed, a kindness you never received, a fear you outgrew without realizing it. You sit beside her, because standing feels like pride, and pride has no place in front of someone who sees through it so easily. She speaks softly now, as if not wanting to wake the water. They only tell my story in fragments, she murmurs. Whispers from tomb walls, footnotes and spells, names that vanish. There's no bitterness in her voice, only familiarity. You realize that forgetting isn't always cruelty. Sometimes it's survival. Sometimes things fall away so the soul can carry less. Nephthys cups her hand in the memory pool and lifts it, slowly, letting images drip from her fingers like rain. A child forgotten by history, she says. A lover erased by conquest. A prayer unanswered, not because no one heard, but because the one who heard was too tired to speak. Her eyes find yours. Even gods have limits. A gust of wind scatters the flames. The shadows lengthen, and still, Nephthys sits with you. Not in silence, but in mutual acceptance of the quiet. Scholars still debate whether Nephthys was a goddess of comfort or punishment. Was she the final embrace before eternity, or the last reminder of everything you didn't say? Here, under her gaze, it becomes clear. She is the pause between the inhale and the exhale. The still point in mourning where grief becomes transformation. You offer her nothing, no defense, no question. She doesn't need either. Instead, she reaches behind her and pulls forth a papyrus scroll. It floats mid-air. No ink, no words, just a pulse, your pulse. The scroll begins to glow, not with fire, with acknowledgement. Right, she says. Not a command, an invitation. You raise your hand and touch the scroll. For a moment, you feel everything. The lives you've intersected with, the people who shaped you without knowing, the sorrows you forgot how to name, the strength you didn't realize you borrowed from others. The scroll accepts all of it and rolls itself shut. Nephthys takes it gently, tucks it into her robes, not to keep, to preserve, because forgetting isn't erasure, it's storage, and when the world grows too loud again, you now know where to return. She nods once, and you rise. The blue torches snuff themselves out one by one as you walk away. The black stone circle disappears behind you, swallowed by the endless ripple of dunes, and high above, a shadow circles, in the shape of a falcon, silent, watchful, as if guarding all that Nephthys chose not to say. You exhale, and the desert listens. The desert shifts again. The sand beneath your feet becomes pale and cool. The breeze, more playful than haunting. Somewhere in the distance, faint music rises not from an instrument, but from the desert itself, like laughter remembered after a long time. You're walking toward a garden, yes, a garden in the middle of the endless dunes, where you expected more scorching emptiness. Instead, there are lush palms, blooming lotus flowers, and vines that twine lazily up carved stone pillars. The air smells of jasmine and river water. You found yourself at the edge of a hidden oasis, and sitting in its center, her feet trailing, in a shallow pool, is Hathor. She hums to herself, braiding her hair with tiny bells and golden thread. When she looks up, it's like being seen by a warm breeze. She pats the stone beside her, not with urgency, but expectation, like of course you'd sit with her. So you do. Widely accepted historical fact. Hathor was one of the most beloved goddesses in the Egyptian pantheon, often associated with music, joy, love, and motherhood, called the mistress of the West, who welcomed souls into the afterlife with a smile. Unusual fact, some hymns refer to her as the Eye of Ra, a fiery force of protection and vengeance, sent to destroy humanity in times of cosmic imbalance, till tricked into peace with red-dyed beer that she mistook for blood. Scholars still debate whether Hathor and Sekhmet were two separate goddesses, or different aspects of the same divine force, joy and wrath interwoven, celebration and punishment dancing in the same step. You glance at her hands. They're adorned in bangles and soft pigment, but there's strength in them, the kind that could cradle a child or break a kingdom. She offers you a date from a silver bowl. You take it. It's warm and sweet and full of memory. Everything alive needs sweetness, she says. Even you. You glance around at the paradise blooming where nothing should grow. There are birds dipping through the canopy, their feathers reflecting sunlight in blues and greens that don't seem strictly natural. The pool at her feet is full of tiny glowing fish. One leaps out briefly just to show off and splashes back with a giggle that may have come from you. People forget I wasn't always soft, she says, her tone light but layered. They think love is the absence of power. They forget that joy takes strength. She reaches for a harp. Where did it come from? You don't ask. She plucks a few notes, clear golden, echoing in places you didn't know music could reach. Here's the trick, she says. Happiness is just as sacred as grief. But people don't write that on tomb walls. Her gaze turns toward the horizon. Maybe they think it'll fade faster. She gestures toward a vine curling around one of the columns. That one sprouted from a single laugh. From a mother seeing her child's face for the first time. From two old friends sharing wine under a fig tree. You watch the vine bloom again right in front of you. Hathor smiles. Joy doesn't vanish. It plants things. You lean back on your hands and stare up at the sky. It's turning from gold to soft lavender. Somehow, time feels slower here, not frozen, just kinder. The air wraps around you like a shawl soaked in honey. Take it, she says. You blink. Take what? She laughs again, light and deep, like a lullaby sung by someone who remembers being sung to. The moment. You realize she doesn't mean this literal place. She means this feeling, this pause, this oasis inside yourself. She reaches into the pool and scoops up one of the glowing fish. It shimmers in her palm like a memory of laughter. She places it gently into a small glass vial, which she ties around your wrist. It won't last forever, she says, but neither does sadness. You nod, a little dazed, a little full. Go on now, she says, standing gracefully. Her robe catches the light like silk dipped in dawn. There are more gods waiting. You rise, and the garden sighs around. You dot as you step away. The greenery doesn't vanish. It tucks itself inward, like a secret that chooses to remain. And far behind you, Hathor hums her harp song again, scattering joy into the desert wind, where it will take root, wherever someone dares to hope. You keep walking, the little glass vial warm against your skin. The warm trail fades behind you, and once more the sands grow silent, but not empty. Ahead, a strange shimmer rises from the horizon, distorting the dunes like a dream made of heat and memory. As you approach, the air thickens not unpleasantly, but densely, like wading into a bath of incense and static. A series of stone monoliths emerges from the dust hall, slender and humming faintly with energy. Each bears a different animal, carving, falcon, serpent, cow, lion, jackal, beetle. You walk among them, and the hum grows louder, resonating with something in your chest. Then, from the center of the circle, a figure materializes tall and commanding, her skin aglow like burnished gold, her head crowned with twin cow horns framing a solar disk. Isis. She doesn't speak at first, but her presence fills the space between thoughts. It's the kind of silence that waits for reverence, the kind you instinctively lower your eyes to meet. Widely accepted historical fact, Isis was worshipped across the ancient world as the goddess of magic, motherhood, and protection, credited with resurrecting her husband Osiris and raising their son Horus in secret. Unusual fact, in some Greco-Egyptian texts, Isis is portrayed not merely as a magician but as the embodiment of wisdom itself, capable of reshaping fate through sheer will. Her name invoked in healing rituals, love spells, and royal coronations alike. Scholars still debate whether Isis was a divine queen elevated to goddess status over centuries, or always a goddess whose influence simply transcended political lines and mythic borders. You take a cautious step forward. She watches, not judging, not welcoming, just assessing. You kneel, unprompted. Rise, she says, her voice low and steady, the sound of still water flowing beneath a full moon. You do. She steps toward you and places her hand over your heart. Her touch is cool, but not cold. It's clarity itself. You carry too much fog, she says. Well. Ouch, accurate. She lifts her other hand, and the air shifts. A swirl of mist rises from your shoulders, revealing flashes of forgotten guilt, broken intentions, fragmented promises, all the things you've buried beneath reasons and timelines. She waves them away like smoke from a flame. I am not here to punish, she says, only to remind. Behind her, a stone wall forms from the sand, smooth and white as alabaster. Glyphs begin to etch themselves across its surface, glowing softly. You recognize, not the shapes, but the feelings, moments you've lived, and those you've denied. You think memory is linear, she says, but it's layered, braided, like the threads of a spell. She turns her gaze on you fully now, and it's like looking directly into purpose. You are not just the story you tell, she says. You are the story you shelter. Then she opens her arms, and the wall behind her becomes a doorway. Not literal, exactly, but potential. A shimmer in the veil. Step through, she says, and carry no shadows with you. You hesitate because, let's face it, you've gotten kind of attached to some of your shadows. But you step forward anyway, and the moment you pass through, everything becomes water, not wet, just fluid. The world ripples, and you float briefly, surrounded by stars and ink and memories that are not entirely your own. You see Isis gathering Osiris's scattered parts, sewing flesh and magic into resurrection with hands that tremble but do not falter. You see her hiding in the marshes, nursing Horus while storms rage overhead. You see her walking across nations, worshipped in temples under different names, but always known. And then you see yourself kneeling before the same truth, the same silence, the same chance to rebuild. You emerge on the other side, breathless. Isis is gone. Only the stone circle remains, and the mist has cleared entirely. You feel lighter, not because you've forgotten, but because you've finally remembered what was yours to release, and in the silence left behind, the wind carries a single word, spoken like a blessing, whole. The dunes ahead feel different, now firmer, beneath your feet, as if the sand has been listening and has decided, for once, to carry you instead of resisting every step. You glance back toward where Isis once stood, but the monoliths have vanished, replaced by a flat expanse under a twilight sky. Then, without warning, the air around you thickens again, this time with music low, as if the earth itself were playing an ancient drumbeat too old to name. You follow it. Soon, you find yourself before a grove, yes, a literal grove, in the desert. Papyrus reeds and fig trees sway without wind, their leaves moving like they're remembering something rather than being pushed. Pools of water mirror the heavens above, and in the center, seated upon a platform of glowing stone, is a radiant figure draped in deep blue and gold. Ma, single quotes, at the goddess of cosmic order, truth, and balance. Her hair is braided with tiny feathers, and a single white ostrich plume rises from her crown, the very same type used in the weighing of the heart ceremony. Her gaze is calm, but sharp, the kind of look that strips away decoration and sees only essence. Widely accepted historical fact, Mat wasn't just a deity. She was a foundational principle in Egyptian life, her name invoked in law courts, religious oaths, and even business agreements. Unusual fact, in some later texts, it's claimed that Mat's feather was not only used to judge human souls, but also the gods themselves, suggesting her authority extended even above the divine hierarchy. Scholars still debate whether Mat was originally an abstract concept that later took on form, or if she was always envisioned as both an idea and a presence, law and spirit, intertwined. She gestures for you to sit beside her. You do awkwardly, of course, because sitting next to the cosmic embodiment of truth feels a bit like being asked to share a couch with a polygraph machine. Speak, she says simply. Oh, cool. No pressure. You start to talk about your journey, the gods you've met, the whispers and feathers and scales, the regrets, the laughter, even the part where you cried over a stone bowl filled with metaphorical emotions. She listens, doesn't interrupt, doesn't blink, just listens. When you finish, she reaches into a nearby basin and pulls out a small jar sealed with beeswax. This, she says, is not a judgment. It is an offering. You accept it with both hands. The wax cracks under your touch, and a soft glow emerges faint, like dawn behind mountains. Inside is a fine silvery dust. Stardust, you ask. Possibility, she corrects. You sprinkle a bit into your palm. It tingles. Balance, Mat explains, is not stillness. It is rhythm, flow, adjustment. Like walking across sand, you must move, shift, adapt, or you sink. She pauses, then adds, the gods do not expect perfection, only participation. You take a deep breath, the kind that settles somewhere below your ribs and makes you feel like maybe, just maybe, you haven't completely botched this whole existing thing. Keep the dust, she says. Use it when you forget that even the stars are always dancing. Then she lifts her hand, not in farewell but in permission, and once again, the world shifts. The grove recedes into golden mist, the pools flatten into desert light, and you're walking again. This time with a soft glow in your pocket and a new kind of silence in your chest. Not emptiness, just ... space. For what's next? You pause on a small ridge, watching the horizon ripple with heat and memory, and the breeze carries a quiet reminder in Mat's voice. You are part of the story now. Don't forget to write it. The silence ahead is different, less like absence, and more like invitation. You follow it. There's no clear road now, just an unfolding of space, as if reality itself is making room for you. The sands darken beneath your feet, speckled with flecks of metal that glint like fireflies. The sky shifts to indigo, and for a moment you wonder if you're walking across the inside of an eye, one that's watching, always watching, but not unkindly. And then you see him, A slender figure, seated on a low stool of jet black stone, legs crossed, fingers poised over a harp that doesn't quite exist. The strings shimmer between moments, made of something finer than sound and older than time. It's Ihy. Son of Hathor, god of music, joy, and ecstatic ritual. But don't let the title fool you. This isn't some cartoonish lyre-strumming bard with a flower crown. Ihy's joy is a wild, transcendent thing. His eyes gleam with the kind of happiness that borders on madness, like the laughter of someone who's danced through both chaos and clarity and came out smiling anyway. Widely accepted historical fact, Ihy was often associated with sacred music performed in temples, particularly in celebrations honoring Hathor and the rebirth of the sun. Unusual fact, a handful of surviving hymns claim Ihy was not born, but sung into existence by Hathor, herself his first breath, a divine note that shook the foundations of the world. Scholars still debate whether Ihy was a later invention used to unify separate cult traditions, or if he represents something older. The raw, unfiltered energy of sound before it was shaped into language. He smiles at you, not a greeting, more like recognition. Do you want to hear it? He asks. You hesitate, because hearing something from the god of music feels like a commitment. What if you don't understand it? What if it unravels you? But you nod, and he plays. It starts with one note, simple, soft, but it blooms instantly into color and scent. Then another, sharper, that tastes like cinnamon and light. And then a third, that hums inside your teeth. The music doesn't just enter your ears. It moves through you, stretches you. You see visions not like memories, but like dreams you forgot to have. Children dancing in temples carved from crystal. A lioness weeping into the Nile. A moonlit staircase that ascends into nothing, and yet never ends. You are overwhelmed, yet completely calm. Ihy watches without blinking, still strumming chords that seem pulled from between atoms. This, he says, is how the gods remember. Not with words, with feeling. You nod, unable to speak because your throat is too full of music. He plays a final chord, so gentle it could have been a breath, and the visions stop. Not abruptly, gently, like the tide pulling back. You realize you're crying, just a little, and Ihy doesn't mention it, because of course he doesn't. He just pats the stone beside him, and you sit, letting the echo of the song resonate in your bones. Most think memory is fixed, he says, but really it's just a melody. You hum it again and again, and each time you change the key. You laugh quietly, a little unsure if you're still in a desert, or a dream, or a song. Ihy grins. Exactly. He pulls a small pendant from around his neckband, ankh carved from desert glass, smoky and glowing from within. He presses it into your palm. For the next silence, he says, in case you need to fill it. You look down, and when you look up again, he's gone. Gone. But the harp's final note lingers, carried by a wind that seems to hum the tune under its breath. You walk on. Lighter, like maybe music lives in your chest now, ready to be played. When the time is right, and in the distance, you swear you hear someone humming. It might be the gods, or it might just be you. The desert stretches out before you, vast and quiet under a sky painted with the soft hues of dawn, rosy pinks melting into deep blues. A final curtain call for the night's stars. Your footsteps fall lightly on the cooling sand, each grain, a whisper of all that has come before, all that is still to come. The air carries the faint scent of myrrh and ancient wood smoke, like a memory lingering just at the edge of waking. You find yourself at the mouth of a hidden oasis, its water shimmering, with a light that seems less earthly, more celestial, as if the stars themselves have gathered there to drink. Around the pool, delicate lotus blossoms bloom in slow, hypnotic cycles, petals folding and unfolding like the breathing of the world itself. A gentle breeze stirs, carrying with it the soft murmur of forgotten prayers and lullabies sung long before time was recorded. Seated beside the water is a figure draped in flowing white linen, their face serene and ageless, eyes closed as if listening to a song only they can hear. This is Hathor, goddess of love, joy, and the eternal dance of life and death. Her presence calming and radiant, like the first light of morning. Around her, faint golden sparks drift and swirl, small offerings from the heavens, their glow warming the cool desert dawn. Widely accepted historical fact. Hathor was often worshipped as the protector of women and the goddess of music and dance, associated with both nurturing and celebration. Unusual fact. Some myths describe Hathor's tears as the source of the Nile. Tears shed in both sorrow and joy, nourishing the land and its people. Scholars still debate whether Hathor's dual nature, both fierce and gentle, reflects an ancient understanding of balance, or simply a layered mythology that evolved over time. You sit quietly beside her, the world holding its breath in reverence. The gentle lap of water, the faint rustle of lotus leaves, and the soft hum of the waking desert create a lullaby that seeps into your soul, soothing every worry, every restlessness. In this moment, you understand the myths you have traveled through are not just stories, but living breaths of the universe, inviting you to rest, to dream, and to remember that you are part of something infinite. You close your eyes, letting the warm light of dawn and the goddess's quiet song carry you gently into sleep, where the whispers of the gods become your own dreams. Now, as your journey through the sands of myth comes to its gentle dusk, feel your body soften like warm clay under a slow, caring hand. Let each breath become a quiet wave, rolling in and out, until all that remains is the rhythm of rest itself. The cool touch of dawn's light on the lotus-studded pool lingers in your memory. Imagine that softness settling over your shoulders, releasing every knot of tension with ease. Notice how the world around you grows, still no shifting sands, no whispered prayers, only the steady heartbeat of the universe. Your eyelids grow, heavy as the scent of myrrh and honey drifts through the air, wrapping you in a blanket woven from starlight and ancient lullabies. Allow yourself to sink into this moment, where each second stretches like golden silk, each thought becoming a gentle drift down a tranquil river of dreams. In this sacred pause, let go of every worry, every unfinished task, every question unanswered. Picture the goddesses and gods you've met, Anubis guiding your passage, Isis weaving your purpose, Hathor planting joy in your heart, each one breathing with you, reminding you that rest is a gift, a ritual as timeless as the stars. Feel the faint echo of their voices as a soft hum in the background of your mind, a lullaby not of words but of presence. Your breath slows, your muscles uncoil, and your thoughts become the soft flutter of lotus petals on still water. You drift toward sleep, not as an ending, but as a beginning, an invitation to dream your own myth, to weave new stories in the tapestry of eternity. Let the final tendrils of wakefulness fall away and surrender to the gentle embrace of night.